Recording. Yep. Okay. Hi guys. Today I will talk about international business strategies as I started last week, explaining the strategy about the fundamental of the strategies and corporate level strategy. Today I will talk about business level strategy and functional level strategy in the second part. And I will explain you how this impact the expansion of each business in the chosen product market. These are essential steps of international business management. As we discussed until now, the environmental factors, the importance of the culture. Now we are trying to focus on more internal and external management of the companies, and the decision made by the companies for the expansion, for the expansion of international expansion, in particular for the business level strategy. This is all about deciding how are you going to compete in that particular product market. Which strategy are you going to follow? Are you going to follow low-cost strategy or differentiated product, broad low-cost or focused low-cost? These are all different strategies applied in the world, and these are actually essential for a company for their success. And the correct strategy, choosing, the correct established strategy from the beginning can make a company very successful, or they can end up with fail because of badly choosing business level strategy or corporate level strategy. That's why it's very important to understand these concepts. And lastly, we will talk about functional level strategy. This is more about internal management of the company. But business level strategy is very critical. As I said last week, corporate level and business level strategy, and of course functional level strategy, you will directly apply in assignment 3. And these are essential to understand international business management concepts in detail, because without a business level strategy, there is no expansion. There's no international expansion. We cannot talk about it. Every company, every multinational company have business level strategy in the beginning to be successful in that chosen market. Now let's see what is business level strategy. We started explaining last week, but let's look at it in detail this week. Business level strategy refers to how a specific business will operate in order to succeed in that specific marketplace, which is product market. What we say last week, first a company identify which product market they will compete. For example, what we say, the company can decide to expand vertical or horizontal expansion, or unrelated or related expansion they can do. They can go for merger or acquisition, or strategic alliances, the other type of alliances they can go for. With this way, they first decide in which market they will compete, and then how they will be successful, either low-cost strategy or differentiated strategy within the chosen market. That's why business level strategy helps us to understand the dynamics of the market. We have some steps to understand what is the dynamics in the market. I will explain you now. And from this understanding of the business level strategy, the firm will then develop its functional level strategies for each business domain, such as marketing, finance, and operations. For the functional level strategy, what we do, we have a question to ask ourselves, which is, how will we manage the function of finance, marketing, operations, human resources, and research and development in ways consistent with our international corporate and business strategies? What this question tells us, functional level strategy should comply with corporate level strategy and business level strategy. For example, if you have chosen, let's say, manufacturing market, you are manufacturing shoes, and you have chosen like a broad low-cost strategy, and then you need to have a research and development department in your functional organization, because you don't need to find something innovative. You're focusing on low cost. That's why you should try to minimize your cost. That's why functional level strategy should be identified based on these two. And international financial strategies deals with this such issues like in this strategy, in part of this strategy, such issues as a firm's desired capital structure, investment policies, foreign exchange holding, risk reduction techniques, debt policies, and working capital management. These are like typical part of financial strategies, like in your financial management, which is part of functional level of strategy. You should identify in which part you can control, through which way you can control the cost, through which way you can minimize your cost based on your business level strategy. But if you choose a differentiated product strategy, then yes, you need to have another department to find to produce a product very innovative and unique in the market. I will explain now in detail how we can identify business level strategy and then function level strategy. And we have one tool to understand the market dynamics, which is Porter's 5 forces model. This model, actually, we talk about Porter in international trade theories. He had a diamond model, and this model, 5 forces model, is developed version of diamond model. They are similar to each other, but this is much more adjusted to the market analysis. Why we are using Porter's 5 forces model? We are using this model to understand the market dynamics, to decide which business level strategy is more applicable to that specific product market. Otherwise, it is a bit hard to understand the market dynamics. What is the buyer's power? What's the supplier's power? We are listing all of them. We are analyzing in general, and then we are having a business level strategy. We are not making a decision randomly. We are first analyzing the market. This is why I'm saying this. This part is the important part that you will directly apply in assignment 3. You will analyze the market. That's why Porter's 5 forces is very important. If you don't understand any part, please email me. In Porter 5 forces model, we can say it's a tool used to get an understanding of what forces determine the profits in an industry. In other words, we can ask how can a company make profit in a specific product market, because these are all related to profitability of the market. If market is saturated, if market is full of competitors, it's a bit hard to get profit. That's why we say yes, all forces are high in this market and it has lower profitability. Let's say what it is. Let's look at in detail what is this model saying us. This model is based on industrial organization economics, which argues that all firms in a particular industry face forces within their industry that significantly affect profitability. If a firm understands these forces, then it can develop a business level strategy that allows the business to either take advantage or protect itself from these forces, which in turn allows the firm to be consistently profitable. What is saying us? We should follow the dynamics of the market. I will tell you what are these. These are the dynamics. It's better to talk from this point. In an industry, you should understand what is the power of buyer, what is the power of supplier, what is the risk of new entrants, or what is the substitutes of your product, or what is the rivalry, who's your competitors, is that increasing or decreasing? In the market, in the international business market, nothing is static, everything can change. That's why you need to closely follow it. In one period of time, let's say within 5 years, maybe everything can stay same based on these forces. But after 5 years, for example, new entrants might appear in your industry if they understand that there is high profitability in the future or in existing market. These are the risks. That's why when you're running a business, you should examine all these forces regularly before entering to the market and during the market. During the expansion or during the time that the company established in that market, because every year, every 5 years, these forces can change. Nothing can stay same forever. That's why we are always trying to understand these forces before entering the market and after entering the market. And the model focuses on how 5 forces in an industry impact each other, not how they impact an individual firm. This part is essential, because if we are looking in a very narrow perspective, we can only check that one individual, we can only check these forces impact on one individual firm. But this model is encouraging us to look broader concept. That's why it is getting much more broader forces. It's modeling the broader forces to understand all the dynamics in the market in a broader concept. Because in the market, like one individual company doesn't move around the world. It's always affecting from different competitors in the market, and buyers, suppliers, a group of suppliers might affect the business profitability. That's why this model is telling us, look at the bigger picture, not the one company picture. Look at the broader one, and then you can understand how to position the company, how to increase your profitability, or how to protect yourself in the market. Let's see, this is another illustration. If you like to check, you can see. By the way, complementars, the 6th one, is added to this model. That's why it is not essential to look at it. That's why we are looking mostly at 5 of them. Complementaries is okay if you like to look at it, but it's not must. You don't have to consider it in any assessment process. I will explain one by one what is buyer supply, but first look at in general what this model is telling us. The forces in the 5 forces model are analyzed from the perspective of how they are able to limit industry profits or increase. These forces can limit, or these forces can increase industry profits. If all 5 forces are weak, what it means, in that specific market, power of buyer is low or power of supplier is low. There is no risk for new entrants, and substitute products doesn't exist, and rivalry doesn't exist. Complementers very insignificant, which means that all 5 forces are weak. Then it's likely that industry will be an attractive one with firms that are quite profitable. Why? Because which means that this market is still very at the beginning. It's not matured industry or a matured market, or not. We can say this market is not saturated. It is still new. It is still growing industry. And then as the other international companies start growing in that industry, yes, then the forces starts changing, like the power of buyers changing, power of suppliers changing, but it's slowly and slowly happening. But if you see any industry, all 5 forces are weak, yet we can say this industry is quite new and still growing. Also, we can see in some industries, some of these forces are weak, not all of them. One of them is pharmaceutical industry. Some of the 5 forces must be low, so that the firms in that industry can take advantage of them, which means that the profitability is still high. As I said, one of them is farm industries. The profitability is still high in that kind of industries, and there are a lot of reasons behind it. We will talk about it one by one by analyzing this industry. We cannot analyze now, but after I explain what are these buyers, suppliers, then we can analyze it. And in other example, if all of the 5 forces are high, which means that this market is getting saturated, it's getting full. It is almost certain that the industry is low profit. Once the forces are understood, a firm can develop a strategy that utilizes them to their advantage. For example, airline companies, the market is almost full, but still we can hear new companies. What they do, mostly they go for low-cost strategy. when we are checking the prices, if we see low prices, we can say we are going point A to B. It doesn't matter what is the service they provided, and then prefer the cheaper one. This is happening now because airline industry is almost matured industry, one of the matured industries. And let's see, what is bargaining power of buyers? At this stage, we should first know who are the buyers. Buyers can be consumers, like you, me, we are consuming a lot of things. Distributors, such as retail stores, like Woolworths, Coles, and industrial buyers. And how do we understand the bargaining power is high? How do we know this? There are some criteria that you need to check while analyzing the market dynamics. Concentration of buyers, what it is. If buyers are more concentrated, which means that a small number of buyers purchasing about half or more of the industry's output, then buyer power is high. And the other one, ability to switch, which means the ability to switch among other different suppliers in the industry, which means that I'm a buyer, I'm using supplier A, but I decided to change my supplier and now I want to go for supplier B. And if there is no cost, easily I can change it, which means that power of buyers is high. If a buyer can switch from supplier A to B easily, then the power of buyer's power is high. Like again in the airline industry, I use that example. Like when I'm googling the air ticket fares, and I'm easily seeing all the different prices and easily choosing in between A to B, and there's no cost for it. But this scenario is not that much simple or like all the time. When you're thinking from the international business concept, when a company start working with a supplier, they mostly have an agreement and they're fixing the price for some term. That's why ability to switch from supplier A to B is not that much easy for every company. Therefore, we can say bargaining power of buyers is not always high in every industry or in every consuming activities or in every agreement. Because in some cases, bargaining power of buyers can be lower if there is an agreement between supplier and the buyer. And impact of goods from the industry on buyers' output. If it is critical to the quality of what is produced, then the industry has a power. In other words, power of buyers low. What it means, if I'm producing very unique product, this can be anything, and if I need a high quality of raw material, then which means that the supplier is holding the power, because the quality of final product is highly depending on the raw material and quality of raw material. That's why the supplier is having the power. And then they can increase the price. What I can say? Nothing. Because my final product's quality highly depends on the quality of raw material or quality of any product that I use in my final product. That's why this decreases my bargaining power of buyer. Okay? Let's see bargaining power of suppliers. This is, again, we need to understand who's supplier. Supplier can be firms or individuals that provide input into the creation of the industry's output. And inputs we know from the first lecture: raw materials, fixed assets, financial supports, anything we use in the production of our final service or product. These are inputs. And which factors that make suppliers powerful? How can we understand suppliers are powerful or not? Which one is holding the power, buyer or supplier? There are some tests here. For the first one, demand for supplier's product. If there is a high demand for supplier's product, then supplier is powerful. More demand drives the price of supplies up in a market-based system. What we talk in the economic, when we are talking economic environment, we say that if it's a market-based system, free market system, price are identified by negotiation between buyer and seller. If we are talking about more demand for one specific product, then supplier can increase the price to sell it at the best price to make more profit, because it shows that the higher demand shows that in the market there's limited supply for this specific product, which enables the supplier to increase the product price. Okay, the second one, whether quality and performance of inputs are differentiated. Greater uniqueness of an input allows a higher price to be charged and decreases the ability of client firms in the industry to switch easily between suppliers. As I explained in the power of buyers, if a buyer is producing very unique product and supplier is holding the highest quality product, then the power goes from buyer to supplier. The supplier is having differentiated product, and then I'm deciding on the price as the supplier supplier wishes. I don't want to say wishes, but as suppliers price at their own price. From thinking from supplier's point, if the product is unique, of course there is some top price because they cannot go very high. There's some top pricing policy, but they're bent to decide, let's say between 0.1 to 10, they can charge against the product. If the product is getting unique, product is unique and differentiated in the market, they tend to price more close to 10 rather than 5 because their product is unique. But let's say if supplier is producing a product very ordinary, very common to find in the market, then the pricing can get down close to 1 or 2. We can understand from, supplier can decide on how on the price based on how this product is unique or differentiated in the market. And ability of the industry to vertically integrate. This is another thing to explain power of supplies. Let's look at it what it is. A credible thread of backward integration, that is owning your own supply. As I explained in last week, Apple had a vertical expansion and then they acquired their supplier which is producing Touch ID for Apple, and then they acquired. This is vertically integrate. And then this will weaken the power of suppliers, because if you start purchasing or acquiring the company which is providing a raw material to your company or company A, let's say here, and then this is weaken the power of supplier because they knew you are able to acquire the supplier company, and they have lower chance to negotiate with you on price. And suppliers that are expensive and powerful tend to be the way the profits of the industry. That's another thing. And we explain bargaining power of suppliers. New entrants, the risk of new entrants. If an industry is experiencing high returns, then other firms will wish to enter that industry. This industry can be new, or can be growing, or can be already grown but still having high returns. And to this industry, the risk of new entrants can be high. The first thing to understand the risk of new entrants high or not, we look at it ease of entry. If entering into industry is easy, then the risk of new entrant is high. And we are looking at the structure of industry to understand entering into an industry is easy or not. And the structural characteristics, while we're examining the structural characteristics, we should look at a couple of things. First, obtaining economies of scale. In many industries, it is more efficient to build or make products in large volumes, and the firm may have to enter at an unfeasibly large size to obtain the necessary economies of scale. This is one of the motives that companies is trying to enter the new market, obtaining economies of scale, but also they are looking at, is it easy to go in or not? And the other thing, relationship between size and capital cost. The more money it takes to get into the industry, the less likely firms will enter. For example, shipping industry. The shipping industry is highly capital intensive industry. It is not that much easy to go in. It requires high capital. That's why we cannot say new entrants is a big risk in shipping industry. And if an industry has many differentiated products or different products than customers are familiar with and loyalty, entry is discouraged. This is explaining we should know if there's a differentiated products in one industry, which means that there is a know-how and high experience, long-term experience, which led to produce very differentiated products. That's why it's not easy to enter this market without a differentiated product, because it's hard to compete with this specific differentiated product. That's why entry is discouraged. We can say entry is hard. And limitation on access to distribution channels. If distribution channels for that specific industry is limited, then we cannot say we can enter this industry very easily. And patents and proprietary knowledge also limits entry. Like if in that specific industry, again, let's say, music, entertainment, like a patent is required, it's a bit hard to go in without holding a patent or license knowledge. We cannot go in that industry. You should hold it. That's why new entrant risk might be lower. Let's say gaming industry, there are lots of licensed product. You cannot go in without a licensed product. That's why new entrant might be limited. And substitute product. Let's see what is substitute product. Products that perform a similar function but are not considered to be in the same product category. Let's say orange juice and Coca-Cola. They are substitute to each other. They are performing similar, but they are not same. And there are some factors impacting the power of substitutes. These are including ability of customers to compare quality, performance, and the price of one product with another. If customers cannot compare, they will be hesitant to switch, which means that in the supermarket, if orange juice and Coca-Cola is there, I'm able to compare it. But if orange juice in different market and different supermarket and Coca-Cola is in different, it's a bit hard for me to compare. I need to compare it in advance at home, online, or within some different sources. But if I'm able to do this easily, then I can compare and then I can change my choice. In some industries, it's been hard to compare. For Coca-Cola and oranges, it's easy to compare. And the other thing, it's impacting power of substitutes, ability of a product to bring good enough performance criteria to the customer. Some customers will switch their lower quality substitute product when that substitute has become good enough for many customers, which means that, again, I'm going to give an example from airline industry. I'm flying one point to A, and good enough performance can be obtained from low range airline companies, low cost airline companies, then I can prefer it. And switching cost, or the cost of switching from the industry's product to a substitute, like high switching costs, lower power of substitutes. If I have to pay something to switch my choices from A to B, then power of substitute is getting lower. And the other thing is rivalry, competition. This is the key factor affecting, the key factor affecting a competition is differentiation. As much as we have differentiated product in the market, the risk of competitors in the market is going down. If firms in an industry can differentiate themselves from each other, rivalry is lowered and profits increase. It is for this reason that commodity products typically are high rivalry, low profit industries. Okay, how we understand the competition can affect our product? First, we look at how many competitors we have in the market. Are we unique? Are we the only one in the market producing that specific product, or do we have 10 different competitors or 100 different competitors? More rivals will increase the number of firms trying to attract the same number of customers, because we have limited customer base. When we allocate the market for one specific period, let's say we have 1,000 unit customers, and in the market, let's say there's 100 different companies. Which means that we are the one, and we have 99 different competitors. We have to share that customer base. But imagine we are just 10 companies in the market, then our share of customers is increasing. And in this market, the number of competitors increasing, then the rivalry is increasing, the power of rivalry is increasing in the market. And growing demand for the product. Let's say if demand is growing, if there's a high demand in the market for that specific product, then there's a lower rivalry because it's easier to get new customers and less need to fight for customers through price wars or heavy promotion spendings. Increasing payoff from successful strategic moves. An industry may be low profit, but the hope is that one firm will be the survivor. So there is a willingness to compete very aggressively. You can see some industries, they are lowering their prices very aggressively because they are believing that they're going to stay in the industry and the other will bankrupt. This is kind of belief. And then the competition is very, very tough in the industries. And the other factors that affect rivalry, including exiting an industry costs more than staying, because when you're leaving the industry, you need to cover a lot of costs. Because of bankruptcy. And this encourages firms to stay in an industry and compete even if profits are low, which is saying here the profits are low means you are still making profit. You didn't bankrupt. That's why when you leave the market, you will pay more, because you will redundant your employees, you will finish their contract, and then you will leave your business. You will pay a lot of fees for this. That's why a motivation for the companies to stay in the company might be the reason leaving the industry. Cost of leaving the industry might be higher than staying. That's why they prefer to stay. And exit barriers keep firms in an industry and therefore can exert downward pressure on profits. Complementers. This is a new term added to Porter's five forces model. A sixth force later added to Porter's original model is complementers, which are products that sell well with another product or that complement a product to make it easy to buy or use, like a computer software and the hardware is the best example for this. I'm asking any other examples, but we are not in the classroom. That's why there is no answer. Okay. There is one example here, automobile industry in the USA. Let's examine what is their forces and how we evaluate this industry. The first one, buyers. In that market, in that specific market, the power of buyer is moderate to high. And it explains why. Although cars are well differentiated, customers have low switching costs. The big fleet buyers like rental car fleets, police departments have a lot of bargaining power. And auto firms can earn very little profit from these sales. as you see here, big flip buyers, which means that the group of buyers are higher. That's why they have a higher power of buyer, and they can easily switching from company A to company B. That's why their the power, we can say, moderate to high. And suppliers, let's look at suppliers in the automobile industry in the USA. Low to moderate, because most auto parts are commodity products or easily obtainable parts ordered from specialty suppliers on an original equipment manufacturer basis. Labor can be a powerful force for some firms such as General Motors and the Korean auto firms in particular. What it says here, again, supplies power is a bit lower because you can easily find different products from different suppliers, which make the suppliers have a lower power. And then, substitute product is lower because if one lives in a city, it is mass transit. Alternatively, it can be a bicycle or walking. But again, they accept it low. The substitute product is not that much powerful in that example. And potential entrance is low because economies of scale make it very difficult to produce cars profitable without major investments in capital, labor, and distribution. Because imagine you're producing a car here, you need to have very good distribution channels and you need to keep your labor costs lower. New technologies in drive and power systems are being introduced primarily by the automakers themselves, which says that automakers, they are having their own know-how developed during the time. This is not easy to obtain, or this is not easy to copy for the new entrants. That's why the risk for new entrants is a bit lower. And let's say the rivalry competitors, that's high. Because of high capital cost and worldwide overcapacity, firms compete fiercely for new customers, or each other's customers. For when we are talking about competitors, we are talking about existing one. They are already in the market. And what it's saying here, worldwide overcapacity. In that example, I assume they've done it in 2010 sometime. When the demand for the cars is getting lower, in the world we have seen overcapacity in that automobile industry. For that time, yes, the companies started competing each other and they started decreasing their prices to sell more, to keep their profit at some level. That's why the rivalry, we say, it was high in that time. Okay, what we explain is all about understanding market dynamics. We haven't talked about business level strategies yet, because if you don't understand the market dynamics, if you don't know the power of buyer, supplier, new entrants risk, substitutes, rivalry, complementers, if you don't know this, means that you don't know the market. First, you need to understand the market. This is the essential step to determine business level strategies. Once a firm determines in which industries it will compete, which is corporate level strategy, the nature of the forces in those industries, which is business level strategy, Porter's 5 analysis, and it must determine what business level strategy to use in its individual business. It is time to see generic strategies, which is part of business level strategy. Business level strategy can be viewed by using a 2x2 matrix, which describes four generic business level strategies. We have 4 generic business strategies. The generic strategies matrix is useful for analyzing firms that are competing in the same product market in a relevant geographic domain. This is our generic strategies. What we say from the beginning, we first identify the power of the markets, buyers, suppliers, new entrants. And if we think that in that market the profit is lower, then we can focus on low-cost strategy. And then if we check the industry dynamics, and then we have seen that industry needs some differentiated product. This is the gap in the industry. And then we can focus on differentiation product strategy. This is all about what the dynamics of industry is saying us. Then we can decide business level strategy within generic strategies. And the other thing we need to decide, broad target market or narrow target market, which means that are we going to focus on broad market like in the world or in very general region or in not in a very specific area. If you're going to focus on not in a very specific area, then this is a broad target. Narrow target is a very specific, concentrated customer group that we are focusing on. Let's see what it is. We have one example here. I will talk about it, but let's have just a break here at this point, and then I will continue. Okay, let's move on. What we say lastly, the first thing we have to do, the understanding the market dynamics in terms of power, supplies, power, new entrance risk, what is the substitute for your product, and who is the competitor in your market, or how many number of competitors, and what's their power, and then complementers. That's the last things. But after we decide or we analyze all these forces, then we can decide which strategy that we are going to follow for our company. There's one example here. First, I will start with examples to explain generic strategies, and then I will give specific examples which strategy combine with others for some specific companies. The first example is Pizza Hut. Mostly it is accepted as a low-cost restaurant in all over the world. This is a general idea for this restaurant, because if you like to get some fast food and cheap pizza, you can go to Pizza Hut. They did not position themselves in every market very expensive restaurant chain. This is known thing. But in some markets, such as Poland or some another developing markets, they position themselves as a differentiated product. I mean, they are providing a differentiated service. They position themselves as it is and expensive. And in emerging economies such as Poland and Brazil, Pizza Hut is seen as differentiated restaurants with higher service and cost than many local firms. This is a comparison here. We are comparing Poland and the United States. Like a GDP per capita is highly different than each other. Poland has highly lower. And then in Poland, low penetration by international restaurant chains. This is another specification given for Poland. And model of customer service remains limited in many restaurants. In particular, service is very slow and not exacting. And transportation to restaurants is relatively difficult. Explosion of autos, but roads still mostly Soviet era. I mean, the roads are not very fixed or very adjusted. Still old. That's why good public transport in some states there is a good public transport, but not all of them. This is we are giving to understand what's happening in Poland. But when you look at the United States, GDP per capita is high, and high penetration by international restaurant chains. You can see a lot of restaurants all over the United States, and high level of service expected in almost all restaurants, even in most fast food restaurants, and easy transportation by automobile to restaurants for most consumers. These are giving us idea how to position Pizza Hut. Pizza Hut, when they entered Poland, they positioned themselves clean, fast, very organized fast food chain, and providing highly differentiated product. That's why it is expensive compared to other locals. If Pizza Hut would go in that market and prefer low-cost strategy from the beginning, then maybe they wouldn't sustain long-term growth or long-term existing in the market. Maybe they would be understood in Poland very cheap and low quality because of their prices at the beginning. That's why going in Poland with high price and differentiated concept help them to stay in that market and giving customers an image that they are different, they are expensive, and they're international. This image helped them to survive longer because they created. But in the United States, people are familiar with familiar with this kind of product restaurant chain. That's why Pizza Hut doesn't make something different for them, because Pizza Hut has a lot of rivalry in the market. But I'm sure in Poland it has changed recently, because every international fast food chain would plan to go. I mean, they had planned to go to this market as they see there is a high profitability. Then during the time, I believe, I haven't checked, but we can check. I can check it later. But I believe in Poland, the segment of Pizza Hut, differentiated restaurant segment of Pizza Hut, has changed now, because I know I experienced in Turkey when first Pizza Hut came, they served as differentiated, but now they are like just a low-cost restaurant chain or low-cost fast food chain, because there are a lot of international brands in the market now. That's why market change, their business level strategy change as well. Okay, let's see what is the other specification of generic strategies. Cost and uniqueness. The first thing we are going to talk about, cost and uniqueness. What is low-cost strategy? What is high-cost strategy? Low-cost strategy is where a business seeks to sell a product at or near the lowest possible price in the firm's chosen market segment. And the other one, differentiated strategy, provides some aspects of a product or service that differs from that of competitors, such as high quality, to increase the likelihood of customers paying a premium price for the product. This is all about the price accepted by the buyer to pay for that specific product. Because, for example, the price differences between Apple and Samsung, because people are willing to pay that higher price to Apple because of the service provided, because of the differentiated mobile phone. They are willing to pay it. But when you look at two mobile phones function, they are more or less providing the same service, but iPhone is providing some differentiated and additional specification when you compare to Samsung. That's why people pay more for it. And let's give one example from airline business again. And when you look at these two airlines, Ireland's Ryanair and Germany's Lufthansa, Ryanair having low-cost strategy. What they do, they fly to a limited number of European nations. They do not fly everywhere, because they are trying to avoid the cost of expensive landing rights charge. What they are trying to do, they are trying to minimize every cost as much as they can. Then they can provide lower cost in the market. This is their strategy. And the other one, differentiation strategy provided by Lufthansa. They are providing high level of service in terms of scheduling, coverage of major stays, reservation service, quality of first and business class, even more comfortable economy class seats. But you are paying more for these airlines. And when we look at the competitive scope, which is the extent of the market a firm will target, such as range of customers and or distributors sold to and the geographic region the firm covers. What I'm talking about, competitive scope on the left-hand side, broad target or narrow target market. The key to understanding competitive scope is if a firm tries to serve a broad range of customers with a broad range of needs, or targets a particular distributor's customer group or geographic regions. What I'm saying here, if a company has a broad target market, which means broad range of customers with broad range of needs, or if they are focusing on narrow, which means the targets a particular distributors, customer groups, or geographic region. Let's say one part of city only, maybe. They are serving to them because they have specialized in it. They have very, very narrow specific customer group. This can happen. And then of course they they ask for price based on this specific product. They change their pricing based on their goods. Let's see. Based on competitive scope, we have two examples here. The first one, Bang & Olufsen, Danish company, they are producing high-end home entertainment system, and they have very narrow scope. And their motto is get ultimate luxury TV, because they are aiming the very narrow customer group. That's why they are selling it expensive, and they are saying that this is the ultimate luxury, not normal one. That's why they are limiting customer portfolio, they are limiting their market, they are producing the high quality, best quality, and the expensive one, as you see in that picture. It's very stylish when you compare to other TVs. But Samsung, the more or less same, similar size and similar function, it is $2,000. There's a high price gap when they're identifying business level strategy in a competitive scope. I can say that this company, Bang & Olufsen, has a narrow scope, but Samsung has a broad. And connecting these strategies with each other, this is important as well, because what we talk individually, but we need to connect them. Like, for example, is that company having a strategy that broad low cost or broad differentiation? These two are possible. Let's see how it's possible. Firms pursuing a broad scope can normally be characterized as having either broad low cost or broad differentiation strategy. They can choose one of them. Broad low cost example, Ibis hotels. You can see everywhere. They have a broad competitive scope. And low cost. They are cheap, clean, but relatively small rooms. At the same time, the other example, again, it's broad but differentiated. This example is from India, Oberoi Group. It's a hotel chain. Most expensive non-boutique hotel, well-furnished rooms, gym facilities, finest restaurants they have. They are having broad scope, broad competitive scope, but highly differentiated service they provide. That's why they are expensive. And firms may choose to pursue either a low cost or differentiation strategy, employing a more narrow scope, sometimes also known as a focus strategy. We are focusing on now low cost differentiation and competitive scope. With a focus strategy, a firm will try to serve a particular type of customer, a particular distribution channel and geographic region, often with only one product. Let's see what it is. I'm talking about downside, like focus low cost, focus differentiation. We have an example here again to explain what it is. Focus differentiation example here. Their market is narrow because they are focusing, but they differentiated the product. The example is Alishaya retail business. They are leader in Middle East, but only Middle East. They do not go other markets. They provide range of products that are international franchise brands of the highest standards, high quality, higher price goods. You can think that whatever they provide you are not cheap and are not low quality, and they provide this service in a particular zone. And low cost example, the other one, focused low cost. British firm MacArthur Glen from Europe, and they offer goods at a heavy discount. They focus on low cost. And well-known brands, but overproductions, seconds, and end-of-season items. They are serving their lower price product in a very specific area. That's why focused low cost strategy they prefer. After understanding generic strategies, like we identify our strategy based on Porter's 5 forces model, we identified market dynamics, and then we choose in between these 4 strategies. We can choose either broad low cost, we can have a broad target, customer target market, but with low cost, Or the other way, we can have a broad competitive scope, broad market with differentiated product. Or we can focus on narrow market with lower cost, like MacArthur, or we can focus on differentiated product with focus market, not very broad. Let's say we identify our strategy, but we wanted to change it. It can be difficult. Changing the business level strategy of a firm is difficult and should be done only with full consideration of the difficulties that can arise. For example, Volkswagen, they changed their strategy from low-cost products to expensive car segment, which wasn't easy. Still, it's not easy. We cannot say Volkswagen is producing luxury car or competing with Mercedes or BMW. We can't say it because this is all understanding. Maybe 50 years later from now we will say it, but this kind of understanding, it is a bit hard to change in the market. Although they try to do hardly, they are working on it hard, but it doesn't happen in a very short term. And business level strategy is often easier to change when a firm faces a difficult competitive setting, such new entrants decreasing profit share. If something change externally in your market, as I listed here, like a difficult competitive settings, like a new entrants in the market, or profit share change, then it's a bit easier because people in the market, in your market, buyer, supplier, competitors, they also witness this change. They also feel this change. That's why it is easy to change their understanding, their perception. But otherwise, if there's nothing change in the market, if everything's same, it's a bit hard to change their understanding. It is a bit hard to change consumers' point of view or perception to your product. Low cost strategies. Every strategy has a risk. We cannot say these are all the best. Every strategy, of course, it's good. Every strategy creates its own benefits in that market if they are identified properly. But every strategy has a risk. For example, low cost strategy risk. Let's look at them. Competitors may figure out how to offer the same product at a lower cost. Okay, you produce product X with $10, and then your competitor find out to produce this one $7 and selling in the market for $8. That's a risk for you. That's why you should be always aware of that risk and then trying to find out what is the best way or easy way to, or most profitable way to produce one significant product cheaper. Customers are willing to pay more for a high quality product. This is another risk. Let's say you produce the cheapest product, but it's not the best in the market. Customer can say, no, I prefer the best product or moderate level product for higher price. Maybe customer doesn't prefer the cheapest one because customer knows that the cheapest one can break down easily. That's another risk in the market. Not all the time customers prefer a cheaper one. And differentiation strategies. This may be matched or surpassed by competitors that predict the next technological change or shift in market preference. This is a big risk because when you're producing a differentiated product or when you're designing, the other company, your competitors, might be might be in the same path and doing this similar innovated or differentiated product. Maybe they will launch this product before you. Then your plan should have changed. This is kind of risk. You should be quick in the market. But this risk applies all the products in the market in terms of differentiated products. Well, companies mostly accept this risk and then they move on. And differentiation is not guarantee of long-term success, particularly in the fast-moving market. That's a big fact as well. A company might think a differentiated product bring them, high profit and long-term reputation in the market or success in the market. But in the world, everything is moving so fast. Except nowadays it's quite big crisis we are facing now, and the world slowed down. But like 6 months ago, the world was still moving so fast, and technology was moving fast. New mobile phone was introducing to the market very fastly. Then we cannot say, differentiated products live long. No, they don't live long. Their life is short, and research and development departments works harder. And a low-cost competitor can figure out an inexpensive way of adding new features to its product. That's another thing. If your differentiated products know-how, or if your differentiated products can be changed or adjusted to the other systems with an optimal way, which is not very expensive, then the other product, the other adjusted product can be much more preferred in the market. You don't know this. This can happen. These are all the risks. And differentiation may no longer be valued to the same degree by consumers who are no longer willing to pay the premium associated with the product. That's another risk, that the consumer choices are changing very rapidly in our changing world, in our global world. But as I say, the world is changing as well nowadays, and I believe this preference, this choice changing of customers will slow down, which is going to be advantage maybe next year for the companies who is producing differentiated products. Focus-based strategy risk. What are these? If a company focused on a specific market, what risk arises? Focuser may be attacked by a more broadly positioned firm that is able to serve a range of market segments effectively. We have an example here for the personal competitor, like NEC in Japan was famous in that time. In that time, I don't know when, but many years ago, I assume. Acorn in the United Kingdom, Great Wall in China. They were decisively beaten by US firms like HP and Dell. They've had these companies had a focus strategies, I assume focus differentiated, but the other company came in their market like having a broad differentiated strategy, and then this company win, because in some industries, especially the IT technology industries, having a focus strategy nowadays doesn't work, because people are an impact of big companies, and big companies produce differentiated product faster than other small companies or other companies who's having a focus strategies. They are really good at producing, and they have high capital to invest in research and development department. That's why they are moving faster than other companies. These big companies, they are moving faster than other companies in the global market. And HP and Dell provided a wider range of microcomputer products and worldwide support. That's the important part, because after services are important for the customers as well. They might prefer worldwide known brand to get better service in case of any problem happens in their computer. That's the kind of, that's related to the reputation of the company. That's why focus-based strategy has this risk in that particular field. But in other industries also, this risk, focusers may be attacked by a more broadly positioned firm. The risk still exists for other industries as well. And what we have also, global strategy and multi-domestic strategy. Okay, what we have done, we identified our business level strategy after working on Porter's Five model. First step, Porter's Five forces identify by power supply, power everything, and then we choose our business level strategy, which can be broad or narrow, competitive scope, low cost or differentiated. After we identify this, imagine we are managing a global business, a multinational business. That's why we need to make a decision on how to run this business level strategy in every location. That's why we have two formats. One of them is global strategy, the other one is multi-domestic. Global strategy is used when a firm chooses to operate in multiple countries with the same business level strategy in each country. They do not change their strategy in every country, in every location. In this situation, a local manager is not given much flexibility to address the specific needs of local market. Instead, there is a uniform decision by the corporation about how to address given problems or about how to present the product through marketing. They do not change their business level strategy. For example, for Pizza Hut, they didn't apply global strategy. But assume they apply global strategy in Poland. They went in the market with a low cost. They present themselves like a very cheap fast food chain. Maybe with the global strategy, maybe they would be understood in the market very cheap and low quality. Maybe they wouldn't pay attention on this brand in the market with the global strategy. What they did, they prefer multi-domestic. For Pizza Hut example. But let's say what is the benefits of global strategies? This strategy helps maintain the quality image of the firm and its products, obtain maximum benefits from economies of scale because they are not changing the business level strategy. They are, let's say, producing the same product with the same specification. They are not changing the production line. Let's say that's why it's increasing the economies of scale. Economies of scale occur when a firm enjoys declining unit costs as production increases over a relevant range of time. For example, Nestle, Bayer, or Johnson & Johnson, they are producing the exactly same product for all over the world. Individuals buy such firms' products anywhere in the world because of the firm's good reputation. That's the benefit. A multi-domestic strategy is Pizza Hut applied, which is used when a parent company allows each market to adapt to local conditions and pursue the strategy they choose best in that local market. The benefits of this strategy include greater ability to match the needs of each market, higher locals to the key advertising and related activities. Okay, how are we going to decide which one we should choose, global or multi-domestic? A global strategy is useful when a firm makes its initial expansion overseas. It is good to understand the market and reaction in the market, but not for all the industries. For some industries, not for fast food industries. For fast food industry, choosing global strategy can be risky. Anyway, use of global strategy allows strong control over the expansion and ensures that the expansion occurs in a desired manner. In this strategy, when you are keeping global strategy, you're focusing on your expansion rather than your business level strategy. That's why you're making sure everything works and then you're paying attention on business level strategy change or not. A firm may find that strong control limits its ability to gain market share. One way of solving the limits issue is to allow some degree of variation in each given market. The firm implements the transnational strategy, a strategy that combines aspects of multi-domestic and global strategy. What it's saying here, after entering to the market, the company can start with global strategy and then slowly can go for multi-domestic strategy with the help of local experts. And then they can use transnational strategy and then finally multi-domestic strategy. Because building your strategy from the beginning might be not that much easy as expected because the company is dealing with many different aspects of expansion. We can say let's move on with the known and established and applied strategy from in the beginning and then slowly change with the help of the local managers, local experts. And a firm pursuing a transnational strategy will determine how much flexibility is to be allowed in a given nation. In that part, we finish business level strategy. And we will talk about functional level strategy. What we said in the beginning, functional level strategy should be connected, should comply with corporate strategy and business level strategy. This strategy, functional strategy that direct what occurs in individual function areas like marketing, finance, and accounting. we have strategic tactics here. Which is strategic actions that help implement a strategy, such as new promotion program that implements a focus on differentiation, a business strategy. And functional strategy should flow from the business level strategy. If a firm chooses a low-cost business level strategy, then the marketing functional strategy chosen should be developed in a consistent manner. If you choose a low-cost strategy, you're trying to minimize from all production stages and then all of the manufacturing costs, and then your marketing strategy should also within the same line with the strategy. When you're cutting all the costs from one hand, you cannot spend enormous amount of marketing promotions. You cannot do this. This doesn't comply with this strategy. And in functional strategies, based on the strategic actions you had, which means that based on the corporate level and business level strategy, you identified how many departments you need, how many sections will help your company to continue the operations, the targeted operations. You should first identify this, and then you can allocate budget to all these departments. For example, if you had a marketing, what marketing does? This involves designing the firm's marketing program that covers that 4P: product, price, promotion, and applies. Marketing to business is very systematic and focuses on what the given product does and its benefits, and marketing to consumers is heavily influenced by local culture. In this functional strategies, I will explain a little bit about what this department does, and then after your business level strategy identified, you can decide, okay, I need some marketing department to design a product, or I don't need this. I already had a fixed product, very simple product. I don't need a marketing department. I will produce it, and in this case, you should have a very fixed customer base. Then you have a distribution channels, and then you will distribute your products. You don't need the marketing. Your customer is ready there. Accounting department, every company has it. And what is it? This is concerned with maintaining information about the financial status of the firm, and it provides important performance measures on whether a firm is meeting concerns like profitability and inventory turnover. You can add on, like accounting department can provide you additional reports to understand how healthy your firm, or are you going to bankrupt or not, what is your financial situation. And in this department also valuable help in helping a firm understand how efficient and effective it's being in different aspects of a business. Like it helps in this department help you to understand how your sources is used effectively or efficiently, because you are seeing the numbers. This is the best department to understand to see the numbers. And there's one other term here, transfer pricing. Accounting department is making sure about this transfer pricing. Let's say, what is transfer pricing? It's the pricing of goods and services within a multi-divisional organization that are supplied to other divisions or foreign subsidiaries. Transfer pricing is important because between two companies, let's say international companies, when you're transferring a product or service to the subsidiary company, you should put transfer price. Otherwise, you cannot sell this. This is controlled by the taxation office. You should put some price on the service or product supplied within this within the multi-divisional organizations. The determination of the transfer prices is governed by accounting method used and accounting and tax regulation. Finance department, not every international company has, but most of them, especially the bigger multinational companies, global companies have finance department. The functional finance strategies of a firm principal concerns the means in which the firm funds its chosen activities. And in this department also financing must be consistent with the strategy chosen, because that's you choose, again, low-cost strategy. The finance department should be aware of should control the expenses done, like a budgeting process. Finance department should be responsible for it. And the financing study should help a firm identify key areas that can be done more efficiently and cheaply. And operations and production, again, this is depend on what you produce or which corporate level strategy that you have chosen, in which market you are competing. In this department, operations and production should be consistent with the chosen business level strategy. A firm implements turnkey operation when setting up an operation and production in a foreign country. And a turnkey operation is an approach where one part of the company is responsible for setting up the plant and equipment while another operates the plant. In this department, actually, as I said, it's all related to what are you going to do, which way to expand, which way of expansion you're preferring, corporate level strategy and which business level strategy comply with this department. Maybe you need this production department or operations department, maybe you don't need, maybe you are working as a mediating company, you are buying from company A and you are selling to company B. This is all about which way you preferred. But if you had a production facility and then you have this department. And research and development department, this is concerned with ensuring that research is creative and flow of information happens throughout the organization. There must be strong control of the information produced. Especially if a company is having a research and development department, we cannot say this company is having a low-cost strategy. We can say, but mostly research and development departments are highly expensive to set up and then to employ people. That's why we can say a company which is producing a differentiated product tend to have research and development department, most likely to have research and development department because they are trying to produce some know-how within the company. They are trying to produce information which is unique in the market. And supply chain management, this focuses on inputs to a firm and where the firm ships its output. And this is organizing in and out flows to the company and out of the company, and how the firm manages and works with its suppliers. And quality management department, that's the last department that we are going to talk about. This is considered to be a functional concern and it's not limited to a single department. Again, this is all about what kind of company you set and what kind of quality management you are planning to run. Quality management can be related to production, organizational facility. In every stage of the company, quality management can step in and control how efficiently department is managed, or how efficiently production facilities is running. And there's one example here that there is one like a list here, 14 points list, which is founded by Dr. Edward Deming, which is the founder of the quality movement. He listed how we can control the quality management efficiently. He listed here, which is not, I put it here as an example, because there are a lot of examples to understand, there are a lot of methods to understand the quality management. This is one of them. You can just read it, you don't have to memorize it. This is just an example. And I assume this is the end of the slides, yes? And please listen to all these things, and if you're stuck anywhere, please let me know. Business level strategies and function level strategies are really important. If you don't understand, if you're confused in any part of generic strategies, identifying Porter's 5 forces model, please let me know and I will try to help you. Okay? Thanks for listening.